Years ago, I used to feel somewhat embarrassed that I was writing comics. I felt there are men building bridges and working in laboratories on cures for illness, but over the years I've learned how much joy these comic books have brought to people. And I began to realize that entertainment is very important in people's lives. I've always felt it would be nice if, while enjoying the adventure, if the reader also gets the feeling that we should all be good to each other. And the world is a small place. We only have a short time in it. Hey man, make love, not war.
We tried to make our characters have feet of clay. Now, poor Spider-Man. I mean, okay, he's pretty good at catching bad guys, but he's apt to get an allergy attack while he's fighting. He worries about dandruff. He'll have an ingrown toenail, tears his costume.
You designed me in the womb.
And my wife said to me, you know, Stan, if you want to quit anyway, why don't you do the next book you do the way you want to do it, just for fun? The worst that happens is you'll be fired, and you want to quit, so what's the big deal? If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said. And I figured I'm going to tell you how Spider-Man came into being. It's a true story, although sometimes it's hard even for me to believe it. But we had already done the Fantastic Four, and I think maybe the XMen. I can't remember the order, but my publisher came to me and he said, Stan, I want you to come up with another superhero. So I thought, what power will I give a new guy? And I saw a fly crawling on the wall. And I said, hey, if I could get a superhero that could stick to walls and crawl on them, man, that would be cool. And no, I'm lying to you. I don't think the word cool was in use then. I probably said it'll be groovy. So, okay, I had my hero. I had his power, his name, and then I figured just for fun, I'm going to give him personal problems. And then I thought I'd make him a teenager, because there were no teenage superheroes that I knew of at the time. So armed with all that wonderful material, those great ideas, I ran into my publisher's office and I told him. This was my reaction, the reaction he gave me. Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. First of all, and he started to give me his, because he's a very logical man, very intellectual. First of all, people hate spiders, so you can't call a hero Spider-Man. You want him to be a teenager? Teenagers can only be sidekicks. And you want him to have personal problems? Stan, don't you know what a superhero is? They don't have personal problems. Well, I left the office disappointed, but obviously a much wiser man. And I couldn't get Spider-Man out of my system. So we were about to kill a magazine. I think it was called Amazing Fantasy. It wasn't selling well, and we were sending the last issue to press. When you do the last issue of a magazine, nobody cares what you put in it because the book is dying. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy, featured him on the cover, forgot about it. A month later, all the sales figures came in. My publisher came racing into my office. Stan, you remember that character we both loved so much, Spider-Man? He said, let's do them as a series. Now, why am I telling you this? Besides the fact that I have to kill a little time. If you have an idea that you genuinely think is good, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. Now, that doesn't mean that every wild notion you come up with is going to be genius, but if there is something that you feel is good, something you want to do, something that means something to you, try to do it. Because I think you can only do your best work if you're doing what you want to do, and if you're doing it the way you think it should be done, and if you can take pride in it after you've done it, no matter what it is. If you can look at it and say, I did that, and I think it's pretty damn good. That's a great feeling. So don't let idiots talk you out of something that you think is good. I try to think of the characters first, and I try to think, what would make this character interesting? Let's say the character's a detective. All right, there are millions of detectives in movies and television and novels. What can I do to make my detective unique and stand out from all the others? And what can I do to make all the other characters interesting to read about? The kind of people you'd like to know because they're colorful. And so I'd write that down. I'd write the name of the character and what there is about him or her that I would find interesting. I'd like to think of myself as an entertainer. I feel if I can entertain people in any way, it's very gratifying. Because it's a funny thing. Years ago, I used to feel somewhat embarrassed that I was writing comics. I felt there are men building bridges and working in laboratories on cures for illness and doing real things, and I'm writing these comic books. But over the years, I've learned how much joy these comic books have brought to people. And I began to realize that entertainment is very important in people's lives. Most people, almost everybody, have lives that have problems and troubles and things to worry about. And if you can entertain somebody, take his or her mind off the things that would normally be bothering them, that's a good thing to do. I'm probably my own biggest fan, but as I always tell people who ask me for tips on writing, I think what you have to do, you have to write to please yourself. I never would write anything where I'd say, this will be good for people who are 30 years old, or this will be good for people in their teens, or all I ever think of is, what would I want to read? What characters would interest me? And I'm not that different from millions of other people. If there's something I would like to read, there must be other people who'd like to read the same thing. 100 from what you've written. I would like to think that everything we do in our stories helps the readers to just understand the world and to have a little more tolerance and to take the peaceful and intelligent route instead of what some people do. I've always felt it would be nice if, while enjoying the adventure,
give me the definition of what makes a good superhero?
Oh, that's a tough question. And if I teach too many people, I'm going to have a lot of competition, but what the hell. First of all, you have to have a character, whether it's a superhero or not, that people care about. Your lead character must be someone, A, you can understand, B, you can relate to, and C, that you care about and you want to do well. He has to be written in such a way that you wish he was a friend of mine. And if he were my friend, I'd wish him the best.
So you have to like Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to like him as a person.
And too often people who do superhero stories, or any stories, they get a lead character, but they forget to give him that one likable or empathetic factor, which is so necessary, as you know well.
Well, you got it.
I would like to think that everything we do in our stories helps the readers to to just understand the world and to have a little more tolerance and to take the peaceful and intelligent route instead of what some people do. I've always felt it would be nice if, while enjoying the adventure, if the reader also gets the feeling that we should all be good to each other. And the world is a small place. We only have a short time in it, and we must make it as pleasant for ourselves and for other people as we possibly can. And doing the right thing is better than doing the wrong thing. Behind everything, there should be a good moral tone. I've always tried to put that in. They try to do that now with Marvel, and I hope they keep doing that forever. Hey, you guys, make love, not war. My publisher had learned that DC Comics, which was then called National Comics, had a book called The Justice League, and it was selling very well. And it was made up of a number of superheroes. So he said to me, Stan, why don't you come up with a book with a team of superheroes? And I really didn't want to do the same old thing with guys who just wear costumes and masks and have secret identities, and the girl is always a token girl who has to be rescued all the time. In fact, at that time, I really wanted to quit, because I had been doing these comics for about 20 years, and I had the same instructions from my publisher all the time. Don't use words of more than 2 syllables. Don't play up too much dialogue. The readers get bored reading dialogue. And so I felt I was just writing one-dimensional stories. And my wife said to me, you know, Stan, if you want to quit anyway, why don't you do the next book you do the way you want to do it, just for fun? The worst that happens is you'll be fired, and you want to quit, so what's the big deal? And luckily, that was when he asked me to do this team of superheroes. So I thought, how can I make them a little different than what had gone before? 1, no secret identity. 2, the girl is going to be as much a valuable member of the team as the other 3 guys. 3, instead of the heroine not knowing that the hero is really a hero, you know, the Clark Kent, Lois Lane syndrome, I'll let them be engaged. They know each other and they know what they do, and that's it.
How do you keep the creative juices flowing to keep creating work over the years?
Greed is probably one of the reasons. No, actually, I'm doing what I enjoy doing. It's like other men like to play golf, so they play golf every chance they can. So you don't say to them, how come you're playing golf today? You played last week. It was the same with me. To me, it is such fun creating characters, writing stories, even doing interviews, even though I can't hear most of what the guy says to me. But it's an exciting life, and when you do something that you know the fans seem to enjoy, that gives you such satisfaction, you don't want to stop. There was a character, and it was owned by Fawcett and by Disney. They were always fighting over it, and we couldn't use the name, but our name was Marvel Comics, and I wanted something with the word Marvel in it. And we finally decided we made her a female. I don't know, I just decided to make her a female. I can't remember why. I thought, I like things that are different. If you do what everybody expects, you're just doing the ordinary. But if you surprise people, that's fun. And I think people were surprised to see that our Captain Marvel was a female. So that was fun for me. You know, that is probably the toughest question I could ever think of to answer, because I don't know. What I would do was just sit back and try to think of something. I don't know that there's any inspiration involved. When I worked at Marvel, I worked for a publisher. And for example, when the Fantastic Four sold well, he said, oh, maybe the fans like groups of heroes. Come up with another group. So I sat and I thought, and I came up with the XMen. But how I did it, I don't know. I mean, I just tried to think of a group. And I probably thought of a number of them where I said, nah, that's no good. Nah, that's no good. In fact, with the X-Men, I remember one of the toughest things is coming up with the superpower. How do they get their superpower? And I had already had the Fantastic Four get their power from cosmic rays, and I think Daredevil got his from gamma rays, and Spider-Man got his from a radioactive spider, and I was running out of ideas. So I said, hey, I'll make them mutants. They're born that way, and then I don't need any new rays. But it's just a matter of thinking. I mean, you sit and you think until the right idea hits you. There's no trick to it.